What's up, everyone? Jason Gilbo here at JGilbo11, taking a look at tonight's 10-game NBA slate, or 8 games if you're playing over on DraftKings. DraftKings left out the 10:30 games, which I kind of like. I mean, obviously the Warriors-Kings game, 214, it was probably a massive blowout anyway. A little bummed about Minnesota-LA being left off the table, but they're both over on FanDuel. I guess the good thing is because of late scratches and stuff lately, those two, you won't have to worry about anything, but it didn't look like we were going to worry about much anyway. Jumping into things, Brooklyn and Washington, the first one here, 224 total. Brooklyn obviously on the back-to-back. Washington are clear, 11, 12-point favorites. Looking at Washington's side of things first, I mean, John Wall popped up on the injury report with a migraine issue. If that's the case, obviously Brandon Jennings would come in, step in, and be an elite value play if he's out. We'd also get a bump to the supporting cast of guys like Bradley Beal, Otto Porter, who obviously are in an elite matchup against Brooklyn anyway. Looking at the front court, I mean, still been very risky. I mean, Markieff Morris dropping in price because his consistency has been horrible. Marcin Gortat, I mean, 4,300 on DraftKings. This guy who's usually around a 6K player has dropped down quite a bit. One, he's torched Brooklyn in 3 games and been pretty well. I mean, above 30 fantasy points. But the way he's been playing of late, I mean, it's just kind of a roll of the dice. You got to basically hope he gets in there and kind of knocks in an easy double-double, which is possible. But, I mean, just with kind of his floor of late, it's been pretty risky. We haven't really seen a big game out of him of late. I mean, look at the last game that he actually scored over 30 DK points was on the 11th against Portland. So the mints have been all over the place, trending down. He hasn't played above 30. I'm still a little bit concerned, even at a cheaper price tag, even though it's a great spot for him. As far as backup guys go, I don't feel like I really need to take any shots on guys like Mahimi, who might come in and play some minutes. Jason Smith as well. On the net side of things, 106 total, certainly reasonable. Looking at Kilpatrick being out again. Curious to see about guys like Trevor Booker, Brook Lopez as well on a back-to-back. Always have some interest in Lopez in terms of always keeping things close. If Booker does sit tonight for any reason, obviously Rondae Hollis-Jefferson, who I like kind of either way, is a reasonable price tag. I mean, 4,400 on DraftKings is not that bad of a price. On FanDuel, I mean, you're looking at 4,300. So he's also small forward eligible there, power forward eligible on DraftKings. Not a guy I mind tonight. So about that one, I mean, for the most part, there's the blowout concern. If Wall comes in, basically I can see that one blowing out pretty easily. At their price tag, it's kind of a shot in the dark GPP play for most of those guys, just because you have to believe it's going to blow out. So you'd have to hope things stay close for them to really hit their ceilings. Cleveland, Charlotte, next one here, 213 total. I do like this one. Should stay competitive. Cleveland coming off a horrific game against Denver. A lot of those guys sat in the fourth quarter pretty late. LeBron James dropping price just a little bit here tonight. Has crushed Charlotte this season. I do like him quite a bit. Irving in play as well, just because you look at those top tier shooting or point guards tonight. Isaiah Thomas, John Wall, blowout concern there as far as the ceilings go. I do think both Kemba Walker, Kyrie Irving are in play tonight. As far as Kevin Love goes, I mean, obviously we saw the big game against LA. We didn't see him really play all that well against Denver. Problem is he's still not seeing massive minutes. Look at the games that he's been back, 19, 25, and 22. I still think 25 to 28 minutes is what you're going to see out of him tonight, which really isn't enough to justify that price tag on that slate. There's far better mid-range options to target. As far as the Charlotte side of things go, I mean, Batum drop down in price a little bit. I don't mind him tonight. More of a GPP option because you're probably going to get lower ownership on him. I do like Kemba at home here against a Kyrie Irving defense that lacks. A really nice, price on both sides, 7,700. So I don't mind taking some shots with Kemba Walker, who was, on a real nice stretch there for a while. As far as our other guys in that team, I mean, the front court kind of off limits for me against Cleveland. Cleveland's a better rebounding team. They do have some size there. Guys like Tristan Thompson. I'm kind of staying away. I think there are better power forwards and better centers to target tonight. Detroit and Orlando, 206, and Detroit just 5-point favorites. Detroit in a good spot here tonight. As far as the rotation goes, it looks like Ish Smith is jumping into the starting rotation, which came out about an hour ago. I do like him. Obviously in a decent spot here against Orlando, middle of the road against point guards. Ish Smith has clearly been the better point guard in my opinion. So I don't mind going that route with him tonight. I think he's a safe play, which is a little bit weird to say, but here in March, I do feel like it's a safe play. As far as the other options, I mean, I like Tobias Harris, at a remotely nice price tag. You look at them, they're bottom 10 in rebounding, bottom 10 against power forwards. Andre Drummond, just a GPP play for me tonight. I don't feel completely comfortable paying his price tag. This obviously is a guy with some reasonable upside in a good spot as well. But, I think there are cheaper options that are a little bit safer to deploy at this point. As far as Orlando goes, I'm not particularly excited with a lot of these names. I mean, Vucevic in play for GPPs. Elfrid Payton, a GPP guy as well. The secondary plays like Fournier, Terrence Ross, Aaron Gordon, I'm not particularly thrilled with tonight. And on an 8 to 10 game slate, they're better options to target. Denver, Indiana, though, I mean, this one, 219. We do go back to when Denver crushed them and put up 140. That was in London. 219 total here tonight, 110 total for Indiana, 108 for Denver. I like this game a lot. One, it's expected to stay close. The problem with the Denver side of things right now is because Gallinari back, Wilson Chandler back, Ken 3 questionable. This just creates a jumble of minutes and just for basically the entire front court. I don't mind Jokic in a GPP tonight. I think there are better cash game options because one, he's super expensive. In a good spot though. I mean, I do like targeting centers against Indiana, so I do like him. Like him a little bit more on DraftKings at 9.4. Get those double-double bonuses, get those, triple-double bonuses, which he certainly has that type of upside. So I do prefer him a little bit more there. But I do like, guys like Gary Harris, even at a higher price tag. He's carrying decent minutes, playing really well. Indiana's bottom half in the league against shooting guards. So in play, but I'm probably staying away from guys like Gallinari, Chandler, Barton, Plumlee at this point, just because now it's a full rotation. I think their ceilings are a little bit capped. On the Indiana side, I think Paul George is a terrific play tonight. Good swerve off of Jimmy Butler, who's probably going to draw a ton of ownership because of, one, no Dwayne Wade, he gets all that usage going up against Philly. So, he's probably going to be your chalky small forward option. But I do like Paul George here, 110 total, as I said. The other guy that I do like here, Jeff Teague, 1,600 on FanDuel, really nice price tag. Starting to come alive here a little bit more of late, in a good spot. We do like targeting point guards against Denver. So Teague is certainly in play. As far as Miles Turner goes, Thaddeus Young, CJ Miles, no particular interest for me. I'm just kind of looking to target Teague and George there. Boston Phoenix, next one here, 219. Big blowout concern here, 16-point favorites for Boston and 117 total. I think the ceilings are a little bit in trouble for some of these guys already. I know Isaiah Thomas's price is coming down a little bit. I do think this guy can still, pop off for about 40-plus fantasy points tonight, and I think that's going to be the case. So I don't mind him. As far as guys like Crowder, Bradley, Horford still at a reasonable price, has come alive. I don't mind him. Secondary plays, I'm a little bit, worried about the upside tonight. I think you're going to see a lot of kind of, plays from guys like Olnick, Smart, Zeller off the bench. You're probably going to Jaylen Brown as well. I think those guys are all going to see about 20, 23 minutes tonight. So I think it's going to be a night where Boston kind of tends to play their starters, about the 25, 28-minute range, and that's about it. So, with Phoenix on the back-to-back, with them about having just basically 8 healthy bodies now, who we'll get to, Phoenix is certainly more in play because of that fact that they're going to have to log a ton of minutes. I like Ulis tonight. I think he's in play. I like him more than Booker. TJ Warren and Derrick Jones are both ruled out tonight or close to out. I think TJ Warren is still on the doubtful side and hasn't been ruled out yet. With that being said, I mean, Jared Dudley probably going to get the most of the minutes, which is a name that we haven't heard of in a long time. I don't mind him as a punt play in tournaments, which, tournament time is basically here in March anyway with all these injuries and just crapshoot plays. The bigs I do like here. I mean, Alex Len, Alon Williams, and Marquise Chris, all reasonable options against a bad rebounding Boston front court, and they do rank in the bottom half against power forwards and centers. So Phoenix is certainly in play. They're coming off a down performance last time out, but the Mints are just still going to be there because of all the injuries. So it's certainly playable. I do think it's a good game stack because, one, if this somehow stays close, obviously you're going to get guys like Horford and Thomas who can really go off in this type of matchup. So definitely one I do want exposure to regardless of the blowout. Philly and Chicago next year, 210 total. Chicago just 7-point favorites. Breaking down the Chicago side, which obviously without Dwayne Wade, we have seen Jimmy Butler take on a much bigger usage. A solid play tonight. Don't mind building around him. Robin Lopez back from his backyard brawl suspension against Serge Ibaka in play tonight. We saw Joffrey Laverne come in and play really well in his absence, but that probably won't be the case tonight. Mirotic, a guy who's bumped up on DraftKings to 5.4. Not loving that price tag. I like him at 4.6 on FanDuel. I mean, he's in play on both sites, but obviously a much more attractive price on FanDuel. So, I don't mind using him tonight. Obviously, it's been kind of a roller coaster ride for him this season. We've seen the upside here of late, but we've also seen the floor. And we've also seen when Portis, if he can get rolling, he's not afraid to kind of keep going with him, which just kind of puts him in just tournament play only. But at the price tag, I certainly don't mind him. Mirotic and Cash, and just a decent matchup here. And as far as Rajon Rondo goes, it's kind of a similar boat for me. He's on that line of just kind of being borderline cash game play. Good value tonight. I mean, 6,300 on FanDuel, certainly reasonable. 62 on DraftKings. I certainly don't mind the price tag there. As far as Philly goes, I mean, Jahlil Okafor probably closer to doubtful tonight, so we're just going to see Tron Holmes. 5,900 at power forward on FanDuel, coming off that monster game last time out. 5,600 in center only on DraftKings. I don't mind him here. A nice 5-category player in a decent spot. A little bit foul prone at times, but I definitely don't mind it. Saric and Covington, both at a higher price tag than I'd like them to be in this type of matchup. I still don't mind them tonight just because, one, I think this also makes a decent game stack here at 210. And the Chicago Bulls defense hasn't been anything to rave about this season. So certainly some upside still to remain with them. Atlanta, Milwaukee, 202. Milwaukee is 6-point favorites in this one. Starting with the Hawks side, Paul Millsap still out tonight. Ilyasova going to draw the start. 5,700 on DraftKings. Once again, price is a little bit high for me. 4,700 on FanDuel. I don't mind it. Not that Ilyasova's been bad, but it hasn't been just a terrific plug-and-play fill-in where you can just bank on 30 points. I don't mind the matchup tonight, though. Milwaukee bottom half against power forwards, also bottom 10 in rebounding, so Ilyasova's in a good spot. Also like Dwight Howard, who sees a little bit of a usage bump without Millsap. Howard's in a really good spot here against Milwaukee. I don't mind using him in all formats. Really nice price tag on him on both sides. I mean, lower 7Ks, I don't mind paying that price for him. Tim Hardaway Jr., still a guy who I don't mind using here. A little bit tougher matchup tonight, but decent usage. Going to get those minutes, is a scorer, so I don't mind using him. Going to have to kind of carry the way. As far as Milwaukee goes, it's just basically the usual two, Giannis and Chris Middleton, in decent spots tonight. So they're probably the only playable options on this Milwaukee team going forward. I can't get behind anyone else here. New Orleans and Houston, 231 total. Rockets are 8-point favorites. This is, probably going to be another barn burner game here. James Harden coming off just terrific lines of late. Obviously dropped a monster game against New Orleans a few games ago. Definitely a superstar to build around tonight with all the value. I don't mind going that route. Secondary options here are just nothing more than that. I don't particularly like guys like Ryan Anderson, Clint Capella in this type of matchup. Centers have had rough goes against New Orleans since the Cousins trade, so I'm kind of staying away. Beverly, not really in play at the price tag for me. Ariz, I don't mind in tournaments. Beverly, I guess you could say, is more in play on DraftKings than anything. I don't feel you really need to use him on FanDuel. Definitely just tournament only. As far as the Pelicans go, though, here, both front court guys are obviously in GPP potential tonight. The price tags are down on DraftKings, especially Cousins is 10K, Davis only at 9.8. You look at FanDuel, I mean, Cousins is 9.3, Davis 10.6, so obviously a little bit more weight there. In play, as far as the backcourt goes, it's just been kind of a rotating mess. I mean, we've seen E'Twaun Moore, Jordan Crawford, Drew Holiday, Tim Frazier all kind of bounce around. All GPP targets that I'm not particularly fond of. I mean, you can go with kind of prior game knowledge, just given that was a few games ago, and hope that rotation sticks. But it's all risky plays right now. It's just more of kind of involved in the game stack. If you were looking to pair Cousins and Harden together, you maybe want to get some secondary pieces on this team in case it really pops off for points, as it should. But nothing more than that. Getting to the two late games, which I'll talk about for DK as well, even though they're not on the main slate. Kings Warriors, I probably have the least interest in out of the late slate. I'm not really looking at some of these guys on the Kings side. I think there are far better, higher upside options. Golden State would be curious to see if we get any rest situation here with a guy or two, even though they haven't played. 115 total, but I think we're going to see a fairly spread out game in terms of fantasy production. I can't really see a ton of upside here. Draymond Green in always triple double potential, and always when he pops off for those big defensive games, you can see a GPP play with him there. 7,600 on FanDuel, 7,700 on DraftKings. I'm okay with it in a tournament. Curry, once again, we're dealing with a lot of the high-end point guards being in blowout concerns. Haven't really seen a big upside game out of him either, so I'm kind of staying away. King side of things, I'm not particularly thrilled with. I mean, you look at the guards, it just depends on who's out and who's in at this point, which, 2 o'clock in the afternoon Eastern time, I can't give you that knowledge right now. So you probably key tags there. You probably only have the key tags on it over on FanDuel anyway. But we'll get to the fun one here. Minnesota, Los Angeles, 218 total. Look at Minnesota 6-point favorites. Karl Anthony Towns, 11K on DraftKings, 10-4 on FanDuel. Expensive guy, but obviously great matchup for him. Ricky Rubio, prices up as well. Really like him on FanDuel where this game's viable in the main slate at just 7,400. A guy who's really been producing in the second half. And we've seen Shabazz Muhammad come alive here of late. I mean, this is a guy who's been playing around 25, 28 minutes over the last 4 games, above 20 fantasy points in 3 of the 4 on FanDuel, nearing 30 in 2 of those. So I don't mind him. Decent options. I mean, Wiggins is in play as well. As far as Dang goes, I mean, he's kind of the odd man out for me here. I just prefer Muhammad or Wiggins, Rubio, and Towns for me. I think with guys like Mirotic and Holmes, you're just going to see a bigger upside. I don't think you really need to go that route. And on the Lakers side of things, I mean, both backcourt guys are in play. We're looking at Ingram, who's likely going to start tonight. I know he's dealing with a knee tendonitis, but 4,700 on FanDuel, I'm okay with it just because, one, he's probably going to still log 35-plus minutes, even with that kind of injury knock still. So, more of a game correlation play. Tough matchup for guys like Zubac and Randall. They're just GPP targets at most, but this game certainly is fun. Vegas is expecting it to be close. You can certainly go ahead and look that way. Once again, the prices are less friendly over on DraftKings, so it's kind of nice that those are out of play anyway. So it's going to wrap things up. I mean, hopefully all this information holds throughout the day. It is March time. Stay aware. I know it's frustrating, but we do have MLB around the corner. So it's going to wrap things up. Be sure to head on over to dailyfantasycafe.com. Check out our great tools and content.